name's Tamarind and I'm the photographer behind As Your Photography. I'm really excited to have put this video together for APNPI, and I really hope that the content in it adds value to you and your sessions and your clients. Thank you so much for watching this video. I'm really excited to dive into how to safely pose twins that will not cooperate in the same image. We're going to go over a couple of different techniques that I would suggest. One is putting together a digital composite with a digital background. So we're going to go over how to plan for and shoot for that so that you are successful, and it makes it really easy on the other side for you to put it all together. And then we're also going to go over another option if you don't want to deal with a digital background and you want it to look a little bit more, let's say, natural. Then this is another technique that you can use where you're photographing the babies in the same pose and the same spot, but at different times. And then we're also going to touch on how to put those together in Photoshop, both of them, and the techniques that I use to make it easy and quick, and to make it also look really realistic, which is important. So a couple things about working with twins that I think are really important to touch on. There's a really good chance that when you're working with newborn twins that they're not going to cooperate at the same time. It's just sort of inevitable that one baby's going to want to eat while the other baby is sleeping. So these two techniques are a really great way if you start getting like anxious that they're not cooperating at the same time, and the parents want them photographed together. These are two really great techniques that you can use, that you can keep the babies safe and secure, which is extremely important, and again still give the parents what they want, which is their babies photographed together. So when working with twins, having an assistant on hand who's not one of the parents, I would strongly advise doing that. Obviously, as I'm shooting this, we are in the middle of a global pandemic, so things are a little bit different right now. I personally am not allowing anyone extra into my studio for safety reasons. For me, the safety of infection, or the risk of infection, is greater than the safety of dealing with two newborns by myself with the help of the parents. So today we are going to use dolls. It's easier for me to work with dolls and show you, or a doll, and show you how I go about wrapping and planning and shooting and then putting everything together. So there will be no real babies in this video, but the techniques are all there that you can use on a real baby, or real babies when you have them in your studio. So safety, super important. Never be too far away from the babies. Obviously, you're not going to leave them unattended for any length of time. And again, having an assistant while not in the middle of a global pandemic is highly advisable, for sure, for shooting twins. So let's get into it. I hope you enjoy the video, and I hope you get a lot of information that you can use in your own sessions, and that help you just have success with your shoot. Thanks. So when working with twins, there's a very, very good chance that they are not both going to cooperate at the same time. So it's really important for me as a photographer to make sure that I have a backup plan, and really several backup plans. So one of the things that I have definitely done to ensure that I can still give my clients beautiful images of their babies together, even if they just won't cooperate at the same time, is to do a digital composite. So I'm going to show you in this video, we're going to use Molly. She's my posing doll, so for the purpose of this video, we're going to use her as an example. I do only have one, so we're going to pretend that Molly is our cooperative baby, and the other, Molly's twin, is over with mom, feeding or soothing or something like that. So every time I do a composite, the most important thing with any composite, whether it's a single baby or twins, is to plan. If you don't plan your composite, it's very, very likely that you will not be successful with it. So in preparation for this, I have shown you the image that I have planned for. Luckily, because I created the image, I do actually have the bowl and the fluff that I used, but in cases where I've used something different, where I haven't had the exact tools and exact same stuff that I need, I just use something different but similar. So some things that are very, very important when planning for a composite are the color, first of all. So the one that I've shown you that we're going to do is has like white or cream fluff. So anything light, you're going to shoot baby on something light. So I've used this, which is just like a felted layer. Or I've used, and this is actually what I used, but this is another way you can do it if you have like loose fluff, and you can put it in a bowl, and then that will translate better into your final image. If you are going for a dark composite, so yeah, browns, greens, blues, any darker tone where you want the shadows to be darker, definitely use dark fluff, or I use this. This is, I didn't fill it very well, but it works for what I need. This is the Perfect Posy from, it's Louisa Dunn, but I think she's changed the name. I'm going to check on that, and I will list it at the end of the video. But I definitely use this. So it's a circle. You can use anything to do this, but it is basically a circle with, like, there's nothing in the middle, and all the stuffing is around the outside. So that allows us to sink baby in exactly where we want. So we've talked about how planning for the background of your digital is extremely important. So photographing on light for light colors and dark for dark colors. And this is going to help the shadowing, and it makes it way easier. The second thing that you need to plan for is just the styling of the image. So in the image that I showed you that we're going to put our babies into, we've got purple and we've got white fluff. So depending on your personal aesthetic and how you like to put colors together, a few different things could be done here. And it can also be up to the parents of your clients, of your little clients. So maybe mom really likes purple, so we could do like a light purple wrap, or something I also like to do, which just keeps things simpler for me, is just put same colors together. So because we know the bowl is cream and the fluff is cream, we could keep baby in cream. It's also going to depend with twins. You want to make sure, do parents want them to be in the same, or do they want them different? I recently photographed a set of identical twin girls, and while they looked slightly different, the parents were concerned about not being able to tell them apart. So I made an effort to make sure they weren't in the exact same thing. So because for this image we are photographing our twins separately and not together, it is possible to use the same wrap, the same tie back, headband, bonnet, all that stuff, because we're doing it separately. So it's just going to depend on what you like as a photographer and your personal aesthetic, and even what your clients may prefer as well. Okay, so we're going to work with Molly first, and I'm going to show you how I would prepare my area. I'm going to do it in the bowl in case you have a bowl and fluff you can use, and I will also do it with the posy in case either you have it or you're interested in getting it, and then I can show you how I work with that. I'm going to use a purple wrap. So my plan for this is to use the purple wrap for each twin, but then put different headbands on them. So you kind of get the best of both worlds. And I've chosen colors that coordinate with my backdrop. So we've got just the cream, we've got purple, and there's green leaves. So I'm going to use a purple lavender halo headband thing that I have for one. And then I have this beautiful green tie back that I just got from AGK, and I'm dying to use it, so we'll use it here. So first we will start with the purple on purple. In the bowl, one of the main things that I do is I will use one of these really big beans. I have ones that are very firm, which can also work, and I have ones that, this one is stuffed with rice. I believe it's rice. Yeah, it's just rice. I feel like there might be some stuffing in there, but this is more obviously moldable, so it just depends on what you have, what you like, and what works best. So my main goal here is to make sure that I'm raising up the baby's head higher than her bum and legs. While I'm going to shoot it at 5.6, which will make the entire baby in focus, it's just a bit more of a flattering angle, and I find it just works better going into the composite so that the baby looks like they're sinking in, which is the goal of making it look the most realistic. So with Molly, let's try, I'm going to use this one because that's probably what I would use. I rearrange the fluff as best I can just to cover up the blue. So I've arranged it, and I'm going to create a little sinky hole down here for her bum. So I've got that ready. So that is how I would prep my bowl for to put baby into a composite. So if I just had this posy and I didn't have a bowl and fluff that I could make use of, I would definitely use this. I would find the side that's actually a bit higher. I do, like I said, I do need to fill this more, which maybe I'll do today. I'm going to take my layer and I'm going to shove it down in there. So it's creating the same effect. Now, if you don't have a fluff layer, I suggest you get one. Honestly, they come in super handy, but if it's not in your budget, which is totally understandable, another idea you can use for lighter composites is to use like a white blanket. It just helps with the shadowing. So anything light. But I'll show you when we do the edit why I use these specifically and how it makes it 100 times easier to actually put the composite together, and it's really fast as well. So if I didn't have a bowl, I would use this and put this over top. And again, I've got a little sinkhole here for baby's bum. Can't really see it when I put it on the side. And then the edges are up a bit higher. So I would use it like that. Sometimes what I have also done, depending on the baby and if I don't get them put in quite the way I wanted, I have used a bean underneath to help sort of prop up the head, because we're not seeing what's underneath anyway, so it doesn't really matter. It doesn't have to be pretty, it just has to give the effect that I need. So that is how I would prep my bucket or my posy. Okay, so we're going to start with wrapping our first baby. For these, for the way that I like to wrap here, I always leave the diaper on just because it's less mess, which is great. Obviously you can do this without wrapping the baby. I tend to wrap, I find a lot of parents lately are preferring their babies to be wrapped, so that's what I do. But obviously if you have babies that will cooperate without being wrapped, then definitely go for it. And if you need one baby wrapped and one baby not wrapped, then that also works. So I start with, let's see, I'm going to pull it a little bit more this way. So less wrap on, it's usually on my left side, and more wrap on the right. So I've got it up around baby's shoulders. So I'm going to pull it in around the legs, and I'm just going to tuck it underneath on the other side. So it's a little bit harder with this doll, obviously, but this will help us hold baby's arms and legs in place where we want them. And then the second wrap will do the same. So we're going to come, or the second side of the wrap, sorry, and we're going to come around. I don't worry about the back so much as just making the edges look nice and clean so that it looks tidy and nice. So that is how I would do that. I try as much as I can to have some legs and toes poking out. I usually tuck one foot. If you have it loose, sometimes the babies will sort of spring their legs out. So it's nice to have the heel kind of tucked in, and then that leg can hold the other heel. Then we have the elbows tucked down, and then the hands on the chest. And always straighten the fingers if you are able to. So that would be how I would wrap the baby. Just like that. And I find a lot of parents really like having the hands and the feet and the toes and the fingers all kind of hanging out without baby being completely naked or exposed in any way. This also will have less risk of disrupting the baby's sleep than trying to put an outfit on. I find most babies will wake up when you put an outfit on. So then we'll put on the headband, or the halo, I guess I should say. There we go. And she would be ready to go. Okay, so we're going to start with the bowl. So here we have the bowl, and it's packed the way I had previously shown you. So we've got the blue bean there to prop up Molly's head, and our fluff, and then our little well for her bum. So her headband has fallen off and in transport here, so I will put that back on inside of the bowl. I'm just fixing the outer edges of her wrap here. So here she is as we have just wrapped her. Now, one of the main things I like to do, I don't really put them in straight. What I try to do, and this will definitely be a bit harder with this doll, is I turn the head. So I turn the head, so it's not like this, it's sort of turned this way. Okay, so I'm going to shove her bum way down in there, and I'm going to adjust that and the fluff there. Now, some babies will not hold their heads this way. Don't stress out too much about it. It just is a little bit more flattering of an angle for the image that you're shooting. So obviously fixing all feet and toes and straighten the fingers as much as you can. The other thing I try and do is when this head is tilted, I don't want it like kind of sideways so that one eye is showing closer to the camera. I want it so that the head is tilted but also looking straight up. So if you are me as my camera, or pretty close anyways, I think the angle's pretty darn close. So I would have her head more this way and then tilted this way. And then I will throw her headband or halo back on here. There we go. So she's like that. Like I said, Molly doesn't want to tilt as much as I would like. So I'm going to show you the angle I would shoot this on. So give me a second here. Sorry, it's going to be bumpy. Sorry about that. So I would shoot her probably like this. I wouldn't shoot her like this. I would shoot her kind of like this. So we've got both of her eyes straight on. We can see her bum is sunken down. And now we will touch on lighting. Okay, so while lighting this, you'll notice, so I have an 86-inch PLM, so it's quite large. I have an Einstein. This is my trigger here. So you notice I have this as close, well, I could actually get it closer. I put it pretty low to the ground. I just find it twizzles if I have it too low, so I'll bring it up just a smidge so I can move it. And I really do sort of eyeball this a little bit. So I've turned her sort of away from you. So the light is coming from this side kind of over. I do have another light here. You'll have to excuse me just for videoing. But I'll turn that light off and I will show you the lighting portion of this as well. But I just want you to see how low it is to the ground. So it's not coming to the top of her head and down. It's definitely not coming from her bum up. it is coming, and it's not even directly coming from the side. I've tilted her head is closer to the light and her body is further away. So it's going to hit the top side of her head and kind of come down. Like I said, it is something you have to eyeball, but once you kind of get used to this pattern, you'll do it with all your images, and that's the way I like to light. The other thing that's really important with composites is to notice the direction of the lighting of the image you're putting them into. So most images, whether it's the background, you can flip it, so you can actually change the direction of the light. Now, obviously, if there's text on your image, you can't do that because it's going to flip the text and it's going to look weird. I try actually not to flip the baby. It just feels odd to flip their features. But you could flip the baby as well if you end up where you've lit it the wrong way. So I'm pretty sure in the image my lighting is coming from the left side. So I've got this coming from the left as well. So I'm going to bring you over here to give you a better look at what this lighting looks like. Okay, I'll try and be as steady as possible. I'm just holding my camera. So this is how I would shoot. So you can see here is my light, like we just saw, and here is Molly. So her head is on a bit of an angle, and you can see the light is coming this way, kind of like that. So that is how we would light that. And that is consistent with our background image. So it'll help make the final transition of putting the two together really easy. Okay, so we're going to get into how I'm going to plop these babies into this digital background. No, it's not the prettiest digital background, but I just sort of threw it together for the purposes of this video. There's some really beautiful ones that you can buy online through a lot of different vendors, whether it's on Etsy or other ones that are around. So, but for the purpose of this video, we'll just use this one so we're not infringing on anyone's copyrights. So I have my background open, and I have each image of the twins. So I've taken these through ACR and done all the edits that I would normally want to do. Honestly, with these ones, because they're just dolls, I didn't do a whole lot with them, so they're pretty much as I shot them. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pull out one of them, and I'm going to have our background in the back, and then she's in the foreground here, and we're going to just click and drag her over into our background, and then I'm going to put her back up there. So what I'm going to do, so you can see here's her layer. So let's name her Dolly, because we'll say that's her name. So I'm going to reduce the opacity of her image to about 50%. I'm clicking Control T, or it might be Command T on a Mac, I'm honestly not sure, to bring up the ability to resize this image. So then I'm going to hold Shift to keep it in the same dimensions and scale her down. So you can see she's way down or way up. And you'll see if I don't hold Shift, she gets really distorted, which is what we don't want. If that happens, you can click this little guy up here and that'll sort it out. So what I'm going to do is I'm sizing her for the bowl. So I can see the bowl underneath, and I can see where her bum is. So I'm going to pull her bum out a little bit. I'll make her as big as I possibly can. And then I'm going to stick her there. So I've just hit enter so that she's the size of her image has been saved. I'm going to bring her back to 100% opacity. And then I'm going to click the add layer mask button down here while on her layer. So that creates a layer mask. Now the trick is we don't want her to be showing. We want to bring her back into the image. So I'm going to hit Control I or Command I believe, and that reverses it. So you can see it's black, she's gone. I'm going to grab a brush. I'm going to go to 100% opacity with my brush. I'm going to make sure my hardness is up pretty high. Let's go 72. And we want to be on white, which is the opposite of black. So then what we're going to do, I'm going to just zoom in a bit here. So as we click, you're going to see she's going to reemerge. Now, the handy part here is the fact that we have photographed her on the exact same fluff as this has been photographed on. So it's going to come in really easy with natural shadows and all that good stuff. So now you can see we don't want to do that. Now I've gone too far. So I'm going to click on the black to bring it back to where I want it. So I want most of the original showing. So I'll just go around the edges. And then if you find there's a line, like here, there's a pretty big line. I would reduce my brush hardness. So I'd make it just really nice and soft again. Oops. And then I would even bring it down to, let's say, 40% opacity. And then we can start just kind of clicking on it to kind of blend it a little bit so you don't really notice it as much, or we can click it the other way as well. So we're just trying to blend what's happened here, these two images together. Now, like I said, the good thing about having photographed it on the same fluff or something very, very similar is that we can just keep the fluff that she's been photographed on so that we keep the natural shadows, which keeps the image looking real. Okay, so let's click on the background image and we'll bring over her sister here. So here we have Molly. So I'm going to click on my selection tool. I think that's a selection, move tool, sorry. And we're going to click on Molly and drag her onto our backdrop. All right, I'll put her back there. So you can see she's encroached on this one, and obviously she's way too big. So we're going to follow the exact same steps. We're going to reduce her opacity to about 50%. I'm going to hit Control T, which will allow us to resize her. And so depending on the twins themselves, one baby may be quite larger than the other. So you're going to have to obviously just know the size of your babies and how they're going to fit properly inside the bowl. I actually think I've made her a little bit too big. So the other thing we can do, just because they're the same, is we can bring them really close to each other and make them roughly the same. Again, they don't have to be exactly the same, but we'll make them roughly the same size. The other thing that could happen is obviously if one of them was photographed a little bit more close up than the other, they're going to appear a bit larger in the image. So do your best to size them so that they look real and authentic to the size that they actually are. So I've just hit enter. So we've secured the size of her in this image. I'm going to bring the opacity of her back to 100%. And then we're going to click on the layer mask. And we are going to invert it by hitting Control I while on the layer mask. That's very important. And then we're going to come up here, select a nice hard brush again, and we want to bring her back at 100% opacity. Now, that is definitely a mistake that I have made before, and I thought, oh my goodness, what is wrong with my Photoshop? If you have this at 50, I'll show you what will happen. So we'll put this on white so we can bring her back. And you're going to think, oh my goodness, like why is she so see-through? So that obviously doesn't work. So check your opacity of your brush. So we'll pick that back at 100%, sorry. And we will bring her in here. So there she is, and we'll bring her in. And again, we're keeping those shadows around her body so that it looks realistic and like she's sunken in there. So there we go. We have placed Molly and Dolly into these images, into the background, so that because they weren't very cooperative for their shoot, we've now got them together in an image for the parents so that they can really enjoy that. They can hang it on their wall and they're together. Yay. So another really great option, if you don't want to do a composite, it seems like way too much work to buy a digital background and try and figure out all the ins and outs of all that stuff, or you just don't want to put out the money, or you just don't feel like it and you don't like them. So another really great option for twins that will not cooperate is to kind of create your own composite. So I'm going to show you how I would set up for this really simple a simple one to do where you're not using a digital background, but you would be compositing them into the same image. So I'm just going to set Molly here. So I've actually am going to shoot this. This is just a dog bed from Amazon, super cheap. And this is just a really beat up piece of foam, as you can see. So I use that so it's soft for the baby and it doesn't sink down too much, and it just creates a nice firm, soft surface. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a bunch of receiving blankets and create a ledge. Well, you can see one's a bit lower, so we'll sort that out. So that should be high enough. So this ledge, this is going to be for the twins' heads. And we are going to wrap them, and their bodies are going to come down this way, and their heads are going to be resting up here. So I'll show you the next part about how I would sort of cover this up and make it so it looks nice, because this obviously doesn't look nice. I have a number of just random fleecy throw blankets that I put over top. So this will help everything be really nice and smooth. I will use a few of these. And I always try and use a neutral color on top so that no matter what color I'm using for my backdrop, it's not going to show through. So I've got them there. They're all, so it's created this to be more of just like a bit of a slope rather than a big bump. And then we will go ahead and coordinate something to go on that. Okay, so I've decided for this one, we'll pretend we have twin boys instead of girls, just because it's fun. So I've picked out this really pretty blue fabric. I wonder if I can almost fold it in half. I always double check with my fabric that it is on the right side. Some fabrics don't look the same on the underside, so I do always double check that. So, okay, so there we go. I've got it smoothed out. I am going to clamp it, so I'm just using hardware clamps, nothing super fancy. So I'll make sure that everything is smooth and pulled tight. I can find the edge. There we go. Now I have a bit of a lump, I can see, and I don't like that, so I'm going to find it and smooth it out. Where is it? Okay. So at this point, we are going to assume one of our babies is not very happy and is over with mom or dad or both, soothing and eating and all of those good things. So I'm going to show you how I would wrap the babies, and I would do them the exact same. I do actually have 2 wraps that coordinate exactly with this fabric, so I'm going to wrap these babies in the exact same. So whether you do them both and then wait for one to calm down and settle and fall asleep, or you switch them out if you don't have matching ones, either way is fine. I do happen to have matching ones for this, but I only have one baby, so we'll just use one. Okay, so here we have our first baby. So I'm going to show you how I would wrap him for this. Pardon me if you're if there's some of this out of view, but I'll do my best here. So I will have 2 to 3 wraps underneath our main wrap, and that's to help keep him feeling secure and safe and warm and snuggly. At this point, my heat is not on, or I will turn the heat off after I wrap the baby, because obviously they're all snuggly and we don't want them to get overheated. So I will have one side a bit shorter than the other. And my under wraps are just thin. As long as they're thin and stretchy, then we're good. I'm going to tilt baby's head a little bit over my knee. I think you can see that there. And that's so that we can get access to the chin. Now, baby's not completely upside down, just the head is relaxing just over the knee. Everything else is very secure. And we're going to put the hands under the chin, and then we're going to wrap them there. Because it is nice to see the hands if you can manage it. I find parents usually like that the best. So I'm going to shove this top part all the way underneath. We'll try and keep his hands where we want him. We'll tuck his feet up. And then at this point, we're just going to start going around, making sure baby is comfortable. If either of the babies have their umbilical cord still on, you do need to be mindful of that. They would have a diaper on for this, so making sure that the diaper is safely covering the umbilical cord clamp will help just ease baby and be safe and comfortable. So we're just going to go around. This isn't pretty. This is literally just to go around. I do pull out the bottom and kind of tuck it up so that we have the bottom fully wrapped as well. So the point of what we're doing here is to make baby look like a nice round ball. However, if you can't get it, some of that can be fudged in Photoshop and it's not a big deal. So there we go. I've got the first wrap on. I'm just going to tuck that in. And so at this point, I want to fill in these spaces here because baby is very sort of 8 shaped. So I'm going to use this wrap next. And we'll go over pretty much in the same pattern that we did. You want to make sure there's not too much bulk around the neck so it doesn't look sloppy. Even the underneath layers. So I'm going to go over and tuck under and then underneath and pull up. Obviously be a little bit more gentle with an actual baby, but this doll's pretty hardy, so I think we're good. And then I just kind of come up and around, and then again making sure there's not too much bulk around the neck. And then we're going to again fill in the middle parts so that we have a nice round ball baby. So I'm going to say with this little guy that I have enough wrap here to make him look like a ball. So I'm not going to use my third wrap. I'm going to now get my over top wrap, and this is the one that we want to make sure it looks pretty. Make sure I do it the right way. There we go. Okay. So again, not too much bulk around the neck. You can help that again by tilting the neck slightly over. Obviously, if baby is uncomfortable, then you adjust as needed. And we're going to bring it over and across. And then I'm going to come up from the bottom. And then I'm going to cover our underneath wrap. So I'll make sure that it's nice and covered. And then at this point, we are just wrapping around and trying to make, I like to do a bit of a crisscross pattern, so I will do that. So I come up and then across and then from the back and then down. And you can see we have a little bit of a crisscross pattern forming there. So, all right, that's good. And then I will just tuck it in at the back. Obviously I wouldn't flip a regular baby like that, but there we go. I'm not too worried about if there's any sloppy bits underneath because that's not going to be showing. So there we go. So we've got our very round bowling ball baby. Okay, so I've laid our little baby wrapped in blue here on the bed. So you can see that's you can see a bit of the outline of the receiving blankets that we stacked. And there he is. And so our goal here, so his head is up high, he's looking straight up in the air, and his body is falling down, not falling down, I'm sorry, that's not very good terminology. His body is leaning down below him, so his bum is sitting on the foam, and then his body is up and supported, and his head is nicely supported as well. So my goal here is to be able to shoot this and leave enough space for him and his brother to be next to each other, but not touching. That's the key here. We do not want them to be touching. Okay, so a fun little trick with this pose, whether you're actually photographing one baby or two babies, is I shoot it upside down. And you'll see why when we put it together. But it's much more flattering, and then we get the baby's face to be our primary focus of our image, and the body is more of an afterthought since it's fully wrapped anyways. So there's our baby one, and I'm planning on putting baby two right here and having just a little bit of space in between. So I'm going to go ahead and shoot that now, and then I will show you how we're going to put it all together. Okay, so here are the two images of the baby brothers that we have photographed, or that I have photographed. So I just wanted to, whoops, sorry about that. I just wanted to show it to you from this perspective. So I do shoot it upside down. So the first thing I'm going to do here is, because I want these images to be consistent, I'm going to edit them together. So this is Adobe Camera Raw. So I'm just going to do some basic things here. I'm going to bring up the lighting. Now the lighting may be different on both of them because this one was slightly further away. So I'm going to bring that one up just a little bit more. So we're going to do that. And then the temperature looks fine. Baby's skin looks good. I am going to do some sharpening and some noise reduction. So we'll do that. And then the next and most important thing is we are going to flip the baby's right side up. So there we go. So here's a nope, that's not a before and after. Oh, sorry about that. Anyway, so there we go. We've flipped the babies, and now I'm going to open them in Photoshop. Okay, so they're both loaded in. You can see them both here. So there we go. And it looks like I've definitely left enough space in between those two babies to get them in together. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my move tool. I'm going to pull one of them out. It doesn't really matter which one. And I'm going to pull him right on top of the other one. So hopefully I've judged the way that I've photographed them. Look at that. They're not even touching. How perfect is that? And they are roughly the same size. Now you do want to be careful when you are shooting this that you are not getting closer for one and further away from the other. So try your best to shoot it exactly the same way. It will make the composite so much easier on the other side. So I'm going to leave that at 50% so I can see what I'm doing. And then let's add, no, we're not going to add a layer mask. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take this eraser tool, and I've got it at 0% hardness. I do want it at 100% opacity, at least to start, because I want the full baby to come back. I don't want him to be partially there. So I want to erase all of the one side, the whole thing. Okay. And now I'm going to bring this one back at 100%. So you can see there is a bit of a line discrepancy here. Right here. You can see where this actually isn't too bad at the top, but at the bottom you can see there's sort of an issue with the shadows. So I am going to continue with our eraser tool, and I'm going to bring the opacity down to 20% so that I can work at sort of blending some of this so it doesn't look so harsh. I'm going to bring a little bit of shadow onto that baby so that we don't have anything too crazy. And that to me looks pretty good. That was pretty darn easy. You can blend a little bit more down here. Sometimes I find flipping on and off the layer will help you see what needs to be adjusted and what does not. But I'm going to say that looks pretty darn good. So I'm going to go ahead and flatten that. And then the last thing I'm going to show you on here. So we've composited these two babies together and we did not photograph them together. You know, I don't have two baby dolls. So I have photographed them separately and put them together. So that's a really, really important thing to be able to do for parents if the babies will not cooperate at the same time. So so there's our two images. So the other thing I'm going to do here is I flattened it so that they are together on the same layer. So now I'm going to go into liquefy, and because they're dolls, although this does happen with real babies where sometimes they're not quite the shape that you want them, I'm going to come in here and just liquefy just a little so they don't look quite so bulbous, but not that it really matters, but it's a really easy thing to be able to do with any baby. So there we go. I'll just sort those guys out. Before and after, made them a little rounder. Okay, so we'll sort that out. So the biggest thing with any composite that I really want you to take away from here is the shadowing. The shadowing makes it the most real. So we've got the authentic shadow from shooting the baby on this side and the authentic shadow from shooting the baby on this side. That way it doesn't look fake. We know on this image that if the light is coming from up here, we've got this baby hitting it. This baby's going to automatically have more light on this side of his body than this baby. So we've darkened this just a little. Another way to do that would be to paint shadows on there if you want to. There's lots of actions that can do that. So that's another option as well. I would probably also just kind of center them on the image here, and then, whoops, that's not what I wanted to do. There we go, they look more centered. And there we go, we have a beautiful image for mom and dad. And that was pretty easy to put together, I have to say.